Ready? Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us. The conversation lately has been entirely consumed with the budget, as it should have been, and now that the legislative session is over, we believe the focus needs to be on students. The Iowa Education Summit is just 3 weeks from today, and Governor Branstad and I are committed to working with Iowans to deliver a world-class education to all students. Prior to the summit, we're going to hold 3 roundtables to gain a deeper understanding of changes needed to better equip our young people to compete in a global economy. The first roundtable will be with business leaders from around Iowa, executives of some of Iowa's top companies. We'll talk about the qualities, the skills, and the knowledge that they need for a globally competitive workforce. The second roundtable is going to be with college and university presidents, school superintendents, and an official from ACT. The leaders are going to discuss how they can better prepare more students for college and for post-secondary education and training. The third roundtable will be with Iowa teachers, so that the teachers will come from all parts of the state, including Denison, Des Moines, Mount Pleasant, Newton, Davenport, and North Tama. And they're going to talk about what they need to be more effective in the classroom. In addition to the town halls, we're going to be holding, the first town halls will be held on July 12th in Waterloo and Davenport. All the dates and locations will be available on the Education Summit website, which is iowaeducation.iowa.gov. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Governor Branstad to talk about the purpose of the Education Summit.
Well, thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor Reynolds. Iowa's children need a world-class education in order to compete in this 21st century knowledge-based global economy. Brainpower will drive economic development in our state. We know that biotechnology is going to open up a lot of job opportunities, and that means that we have to have students that have the skill sets in science and math necessary for those jobs, as well as other jobs that are going to be created. Some other states have recognized this and have moved ahead of Iowa by setting high standards for education, high academic standards, and also assessments. They also are working to assure that there are effective teachers in the classrooms of their states. Just recently, both Indiana and Illinois have passed major education reforms. Iowa needs to learn from what's been done in those states and other states, combine that with the best thinking of people in our state on how to improve education here in Iowa. Iowa has dropped in the the NAEP tests, which is the National Assessment of Educational Progress. Back in the 90s, we were top performer in the country. Recently, we've been in the middle of the pack in those NAEP tests that are given to 4th graders and 8th graders in reading and math. That is not acceptable. We need to work together to build a broad coalition that will work to improve the quality of Iowa's education and the achievement of our students. We look forward to hearing from Iowans, and we're excited that we've got such a tremendous interest and sign up to participate in the Education Summit. We know this is something that we all need to work together on. We need to really build a broad-based consensus if we're going to make dramatic improvement and get Iowa back into a leadership position so that we truly have a kind of world-class education that we all want for our children and grandchildren. We'll be glad to respond to your questions.
New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is one of the speakers at this summit.
Right.
Is one of the goals to come up with a way to break teachers' unions?
No. We're going to be participating and working with everybody, including working with the teachers. And I would say, if you look at what Governor Christie has recently done, first of all, you got to know that New Jersey's got a huge financial problem. He was just recently able to get bipartisan support to reform their pension system. And if you look around the country, state after state's doing that. That's an issue that I think has to be addressed in most of the states and communities around this country in order to have sustainability in terms of the delivery of education and other services. So I would also point out that we have not only Governor Christie, we've got former Governor Jim Hunt from North Carolina. We've got the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, who put together Race for the Top program, which certainly has kind of broken the mold and put a new focus on educational achievement and finding new and better ways to prepare in order to improve student achievement.
To build upon Kay's question, does Iowa's pension need to be addressed? That's teachers' pensions?
That's a separate issue, and that's an issue that I think will be addressed. Actually, we're not nearly in the terrible shape that Illinois is, or that New Jersey is, or California, and go on and on and on. But I think there is concern about the pension systems, and that is an issue that will be addressed next year. But that is a separate issue really from this. The Education Summit is really going to be focusing on things like teacher preparation and leadership in the schools, student achievement, and things like that, as opposed to the compensation and retirement system.
Will you propose your own bill next year for the pension issue?
We intend to work in, usually there's a legislative group that's put together to deal with pensions every other year. We intend to work very closely with them. And as you know, last year they did make some reforms and changes in the pension system. That was an improvement. We want to make further improvements and changes in the coming year. So yes, we will work with the legislature on this. I'm very hopeful that we can make some reforms and changes in the pension system that will preserve the pensions and make sure they're sustainable for the long term, while at the same time, looking at those things we can do to control costs. We're very fortunate. We're not in the situation of a Wisconsin or an Illinois or many of these other states that have dire problems, because Illinois has even got to the point where they're borrowing money to make payments on their pensions. I think they're probably in the worst shape of any of the states. So we're very fortunate not to be in that kind of condition.
Governor, you initially talked about having a special session to enact some of these education reform proposals. Is that still your intention?
I think realistically, this is a huge undertaking, that this is something that we can make a top priority in the next session of the legislature. I think to have the time to build the consensus we need. And this education reform, if you look around the country, you look at Illinois, I mentioned Illinois and Indiana, they did pass major reform this year. Not easy. It took a lot of time and a lot of effort to get it done. It's true in many other states as well. We anticipate this will be, and this is an issue that people care deeply about, people have strong feelings about, and we're looking at finding new and different ways to do things. Those are never easy to get approved. So we think we want to do this right, and so putting the time and the effort into it, and we're going to devote a lot of our energy, the governor and the lieutenant governor, but we're also going to be really collaborating with and working with teachers and with administrators and with experts from outside of the state as well that have had experience in education reform. One of the reasons why I chose Jason Glass to be the director of Department of Education is because of his success as a reformer in education. And he and Linda Fannell have been working on this for months, and now that we've completed the session, the Lieutenant Governor and I will also be putting a lot of our time and energy into this.
So will this be a higher priority than the property tax reform, which wasn't enacted?
We're going to continue to work on the property tax reform. I'm committed to seeing that gets accomplished. It was a disappointment that it didn't get done this year. My concern, failing to act means a massive $1.3 billion increase in property taxes over the next 5 years. That's not acceptable. It also means that we continue to be uncompetitive in our efforts to attract commercial business to the state, because we have second highest commercial property tax in the country. So that's going to continue to be a priority, and we're going to work to get that accomplished. But we're going to also very much focus on education reform and improvement.
How are you going to get that accomplished?
How are we going to get that accomplished? Well, first of all, I think Iowans need to understand and appreciate the magnitude of the challenge that we're facing, and the fact that continuing to kick the can down the road is not an acceptable alternative. I find it interesting now that the session's over. All these legislators say they they want to do this. It's going to be a high priority next session. But we had the opportunity to get it done. I made it a focus. It didn't get accomplished because some people didn't have the commitment to control the increase that's going to occur. I want to make sure that we limit residential and agriculture property from going up. At the same time, I want to make sure that we systematically reduce this very high commercial property tax. And I believe that we've got to have something that is going to be across the board beneficial to all businesses, not just something that's targeted to a few.
But it looks like that's a recipe to make sure that this won't happen again in 2012.
No,
In the conference committee, they deadlocked 5-5. Why wasn't it continued in that format? You were able to reach a budget agreement by forcing a conference committee to deal with each one of those issues. Why didn't that one go in that?
Well, I'm not going to get into the details of the people or the personalities involved in this. I can just tell you this is a high priority of this administration, and we're going to continue to work. And I think it's a high priority of many of the business people in Iowa, people that care about economic development, recognize this is important. And, you know, with me, it's not lip service. It's a strong commitment and something that I'm going to keep on the agenda and keep as a high priority. And I'm confident with that focus, we're going to get it accomplished. But I want to do it the right way, and I want to do it something that's going to be sustainable and effective in the long term and get us into a competitive situation, not just to say, well, we did something. I want to do something meaningful and something that makes us competitive, even if it takes us a while to get there.
We'll be doing it the right way, requiring that from this point on, things are done in the open so the public understands what's going on rather than it always be backdoor.
Well, I've always opened, you know, I brought this issue up in the campaign. There's nobody who's been more open than I have on this issue. In fact, we put out a publication a year ago that spelled out exactly what my vision and goals were to make Iowa competitive, including reducing the commercial property tax from 100% of market value to 60% of market value. And so I'm going to continue to be very open and very direct and I think I held I don't know how many. We did 43 just when the Lieutenant Governor was out on the trade mission, and I don't know how many. We probably did 80. We probably did 70 or 80 town hall meetings, and this was always a topic that we brought up. So I can't help it. Sometimes in dealing with legislators that they don't want to deal with it totally in an open environment like that, but that's the process, and that's the way we're going to continue to work on it. And I think, you know, we're going to continue to work to build public support on this issue. And we do understand that there are some that would love to get the property tax windfall, but we don't think that's right or fair, and we want to protect the property taxpayers in the process.
Governor, do you think you can support the agreement on the Medicaid-funded abortions that was reached by lawmakers on the final day of session?
Well, I think that that was the best that could be worked out under the circumstances.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.